Zen garden is taking shape. Got two little terraces, you know, and this was a couple of hours work. Don't know what all the complaints are about. Anyway, got to redeploy the soil. It's good soil, so it should grow. Might get the tobacco harvest in here in time, who knows. But coming along, Lisa's been doing the dry walling. I'll show you something else she did later on. She's good at dry walling, is my clerk of works. Well, that was totally knackering. I got all the timber down for the dojo, for my dojo, which I will show you now. But I had to carry it on my clerk of works from the road above, manually. I'll show you what we've been doing. And this was on top of spending 3 or 4 hours non-stop digging into the side of the hill in order to provide us with a nice terrace garden. Anyway, have a look at this. This is what we had to cart down. Doesn't look very much and doesn't look very heavy, but believe you me, it is when you're carrying 2 at a time down a very steep bank. But it's been done. It had to sort of come down from the main road. Well, I say main road, it's just a tiny little village, well, it's not even village, just rural mountain track. But I hoik it all the way down there. Oh well, it certainly keeps you fit. And you might have seen some of the wall that we've been building today as part of our terracing project. But this was also, this wall here we built. How about that for a bit of dry stone walling? And it's immensely gratifying though. Look at that. Who says priests are useless? Hello and welcome to my lovely evening, as it is evening now, at the hermitage. I've just had a siesta. It's been a busy old day. It didn't start busy. It started, as it normally does, very quiet, when I do my various devotions, and well, it followed on from there. I was quite quiet for quite a while after that too. I just did my household chores, and I wasn't expecting much of a busy day today, but then I remember that I'd ordered wood and timber, and the timber was arriving today. I must pay for it actually. Got the invoice somewhere. Quite a lot of timber, quite a lot of heavy and long timber. In fact, during this video you may hear some of it being sawn up or screwed in. My clerk of works, my girl Friday, is busy at it, which is good, while I sit here enjoying my port. So anyway, I was so tired, I went and had a siesta, and I've just got up. So if I'm a bit gaga, that's why. I haven't quite woken up yet, really. But have you ever had those days when you're dog tired? I woke up tired. I was very incommunicative this morning, in a good way, I suppose. I was very quiet, very silent, but I was sort of zombified, really. I didn't have the best night's sleep because I was expecting Paul, you might remember, to come today. My chainsaw man, he didn't turn up, said he had a kidney problem, but he said he could come on Sunday. I don't know how that works. Perhaps he knows that his kidney will be okay on Sunday. So he didn't come, but I always sleep slightly restlessly when I know that people are coming the following day, and I think it's just me. I'm a very sort of private person, really, and all the people traipsing about the place always unnerves me slightly, even if it's just workmen. So not a great night's sleep, so I was tired to start with, and I didn't quite know what was going to unfold today. I knew the timber was arriving. I got some stuff should be arriving from Amazon shortly. But that's just smoking related. It's gas for this. I bought some Zippo fuel, and I've got some flints coming, so I'm good to go. And as I said, I should be keeping this because I got £5 off, so there's no point sending it back, and it is quite nice. And I'm hoping that that smile between the lid and the base will just go away by some sort of supernatural intervention. You can actually close it if you push it like that, but sometimes it'll just go ping and you can hear it open again. But even so, it's like a flamethrower. It's very good, so I don't really see why I need to get rid of that. And there's something satisfying about an old bit of brass, isn't there? It's all tarnished up. It's got all its patination, which is rather lovely. So anyway, here I am. I wasn't sure quite how the day was going to unfold. But unfold it did, and in a good way. You'll have seen on the opening clips, I spent a lot of it when I did finally get myself going, just digging for victory. Dug 3 terraces really, out of the earth, with a mattock, not a pickaxe, a mattock. I love a bit of mattocking, and that was very satisfying, I have to say. There's some bloody great huge tree trunks buried in that hill too, which had to be cut up with a circular saw. And anyway, they were dealt with. And the timber that arrived today, of course, was to build the deck. And it's a huge bit of decking. I mean, it's as large as the caravan, if not more, going this way. And it will function in a number of ways. It will function as an outside dojo in which I can practice my Japanese sword arts if my body will allow me to after all these years. I've got to retrieve my swords in the back of the container. Everything's in the back of the container. My life is in the back of the container. But if I can get into the back of the, literally in the back of the container, because it's this high, I might be able to retrieve them and do something. But then you see, you need your Japanese kit. But then they're called a hakama, you know, they're sort of dresses that the samurai wear. I've got a few of those, they look rather good. And you wear them with a top not dissimilar to this. I can do it, of course, in what I'm wearing now. But my obi is also in the back of the container somewhere, buried in probably vestments. But an obi is that sort of broad belt made of material that you see on kimonos and stuff. And you put your sword into that, you see. It's all part, and you need to be able to do that in order to reproduce the kata that I do. But there we are, you know. It'll unravel, it'll unfurl, it will come to pass, as it says in the scriptures. Love phrases from the authorized version. And it came to pass. But it will come to pass. So anyway, the timber arrived, loads of it, and you know, it was quite a job getting it down here. But down here it is, and it's just being screwed together as we speak. The platform, and then the boarding will have to go on top of that. But we dug out the space in which it must sit, and then terracing above and stone walling was done today as well. Quite a productive day. It's interesting, given that I was speaking about on the Churchill today. Cheers, Richard. And in that is some of that black cherry. Nearly finished it now. Probably won't get it again. Bit perfumey. This is the one I said tastes like drinking cherry brandy in the bath. Got a very soapy taste. Won't be getting this again. If you want the same sort of thing but without the soap suds, get the Maduro. But this is the is it Kendall's black cherry? Can't quite remember who did it. Anyway, it's going to be used up. It's going to be used up and never bought again. So the hole is dug. I mean, tomorrow I'll probably give you a guided tour of the dojo. I call it the dojo. It's just an outside platform. It's going to be open to the elements, which is rather nice. And the other thing, you see, I thought, once I've properly sourced water here, I sort of drink from a puddle at the moment. But once I tap that water, I can get it pumped into some container on the bank. I'm going to try and put a wood-burning, I hate the word jacuzzi. I think Japanese call it ofuro, a hot tub. It won't be a jacuzzi because it have no jets squirting anything. But a nice wooden ofuro, hot tub, could sit on that platform too. Which would be rather fun, having a hot bath in nature. And it'd be wood fired, and I've got so much wood. Because, the one thing I miss here is having a bath. I've got my little forest shower, which obviously one needs with so much manual work. Old Tim. Yeah, so that does the job. I mean, that freshens you up, but it's not the same, is it? It's getting into a nice hot bath and staying in it. I like to do all sorts in the bath. I don't know about you. I'm really interesting, frankly, smoking a Churchill pipe. But old Churchill wrote most of his speeches in the bath. His secretary has to hover outside the door, taking notes. And he'd take a drink in, a brandy and a big fat cigar. He was in the bath. I don't know if I should be preaching from the hot tub, but you never know. I might just set a camera up. I'll have to make sure there are plenty of bubbles. I don't want to offend anybody's modesty. But that could be fun, couldn't it? Maybe that is a video for another day. So yeah, basically the platform will be useful. It's always useful when you live on a hill to have terracing and flat areas. So absolutely exciting. And the wonderful thing about today was that obviously by creating that stone walling and that terracing, I've got two marvellous beds in which I can plant things outside. So I just cannot wait to plant them out. I shall probably go to Tuffin's to their garden. They've got a bit of a gardening section outside. And they never water anything at Tuffin, so everything is always reduced because it's half dead. So and I love rescuing old plants. Do you? Look at this. Look at that flamethrower. Get that ash burn done. Yeah, I love rescuing. The house I've just left, you might see the actual tree on some of my older videos from Non-Moncton. I rescued a half-dead Acer. And I bought it in Tesco's. I remember the day. I remember seeing it in the trolley nose years ago. Half dead it was. And I planted that out in front of my cottage in Yorkshire. And it, just sprang back into life. And then it was huge by the time, I left. And it was glorious. It'd be glorious now. I hope the new owners appreciate my Acer. I had an Acer in front of the cottage here. I had to come down. Too big and in the wrong place. You wouldn't be able to put any scaffolding in. I've got an Acer on that far bank over there, which obviously I can keep, which is marvellous. I'll plant some more out. That's probably going to be an orchard over there. Might get some cherry as well, to continue the Japanese theme. Because of course they lived amongst terracing, didn't they, a lot, the Japanese. So that might inspire some of my ideas. So it's been a busier day than I had anticipated. But it's more or less done now. Because of that nap, I'm able to face the evening with a certain amount of vigour, which otherwise would not have been there. Anyway, I did have something to say about Churchill, and now I've completely forgotten it. It's totally escaped my mind. And it was to do with the pipe, and it was to do with something else. Maybe I did say it and I've forgotten that I've said it. So basically, I thought before I go, I'd just talk about, just briefly, I don't want to keep you, you've probably got your tea on, about the importance of rest. Yesterday I spoke about the importance of work and the dignity of work and how it's good for one's mental health. But sleep and rest is also good for one's mental health. I mean, it's not for nothing that our Lord, our Creator God, rested on the seventh day. Very important to rest, at least one in 7 days. Rest is very important for your mental health too, and we all know what it's like to be frazzled, as any tired mother will tell you, or tired father. They often have to get up in the middle of the night, don't they now, and tend to kids. So yeah, and then go to put a day's work in. So we know what it's like to be tired. And there is nothing like that feeling of respite from work. I can remember I used to live in Italy, well, Sardinia, and I actually belonged to a monastery for a while there. I was sort of testing my vocation as a Capuchin friar in Il Convento. They call their monasteries conventos and Cappuccini, and it was great. It was in Cagliari, which is the capital of Sardinia. I think it is, at least. And it was lovely. It was sort of in front of a Roman amphitheatre. And there was a restaurant not too far off. And this is before I went into the convento to test my vocation as a friar. I worked as a waiter. I did everything. I made pizzas for a living as well. So I know how to hand make pizzas. I worked in a pizzeria, and I was what they call a pizzaiolo. I made pizzas for a living, and then I worked as a waiter for a bit, and just odd jobs really. It was my what they call gap year. I think we just called them a year off in my day, but now they're called gap years. And during my gap year, I did all sorts of odd jobs. I was a warehouseman when I got back as well. That was fun. But I remember I worked really hard as a pizzaiolo and as a waiter. And I remember sitting in this cafe near the monastery, the friary, and you only had 1 day off a week. And I can remember sitting there in the gleaming sunshine, looking over the Bay of Sardinia and the Via Roma and the little yachts and the lights of the sun dancing on the little rivulets. And I used to smoke in those days. I think it was Marlboro I used to smoke. And I remember sitting in this little cafe with my cappuccino, with a cigarette on the go, in my clean clothes, with a day stretching out in front of me with nothing to do. And it was hard work at the time. And I remember sitting there just going, I feel like I'm in heaven. Such was the feeling of release and of rest after a very, very busy week. Since then I've become rather bone idle, so that I don't feel much respite often now because, I say I'm bone idle, and perhaps I'm less bone idle now I'm here. I'm bone idle by nature, but generally I do tend to get on with things. Anyway, it was good to have a rest, and I'm sure you appreciate exactly what I'm talking about. So it's good to have some let up, otherwise you will go off the rails. It doesn't really matter what you do. Some people say a change is as good as a rest, don't they? A change is as good as a rest. But we must rest. And we all know about the importance of sleep, don't we? I'm not sure what the hours are. You have to... Well, it's different for different people, isn't it? I mean, they talk about get your 8 hours in, but 8 hours is probably the worst thing you can get in because you'll be in the middle of a circadian rhythm, which are about 90 minutes long. So you really want to get your 7.5 hours in, which is why alarm clocks are a nightmare. because they will wake you up in the middle of a circadian rhythm, and you feel ghastly, don't you? But if you wake up naturally at the end of a circadian rhythm, then you feel quite good. But of course, if you're a male and you get to my age, it's normally wanting to go to the loo that wakes you up. Can't be helped. So yes, sleep is important. A day of rest is important. Relaxation is important. One doesn't want to live with frayed nerves. One wants to have a certain amount of peace, respite, quietude, reflection. I remember even when I was at school, I hated school until I got to sort of sixth form. I liked sixth form for some odd reason, but I hated everything up to that point. And I can remember even getting excited by Thursday that the weekend was looming, and then I could be let off, unleashed, set free. Weekends were glorious. And then there was that horrible Sunday evening slump. And that was a bath night too. And that, I hated. We used to have salad for tea. You can't really call salad dinner, can you? And because you'd have that big Sunday lunch in those days. I don't even know if people do it anymore. So it was always salad. And it was that ruddy Heinz salad cream. Gosh, it was a miserable fare. And cold meats and what have you. And I remember jelly and carnation cream after it, or milk or whatever it was called. Evap. I used to call it evap for evaporated. Evaporate, oh dear me. Yeah, and I've never had any of that sort of thing since. Well, I don't know, I have salad, of course. And I do like a bit of charcuterie and a bit of salami and whatever. But anyway, that was my Sunday evenings. I hated them. Absolutely hated them. It was just, I thought, oh gosh, school. It was at the end of the weekend. And Sunday evenings were just so depressing. You couldn't even get any joy from what was on television. And you just went to bed, you go, oh no, school tomorrow. But there we go. So I've never... You know, I've always looked forward to my times of rest and freedom. And it's odd, when I retired from the army, which was quite a long time ago now, I retired early, grabbed my pension and ran. And the odd thing is that you think you're on holiday, which of course you're not, because you've still got to think about getting a job or doing something. And so it wears off after a time. But I remember just feeling, isn't this marvellous? I don't have to put my army uniform on. I don't have to get up every day at 7 o'clock. I'm not answerable to any of these commanding officers. I don't have to write any of that. It's called service admin. Unbelievable amount of admin. A bit like the police force today, I suppose. That's why they don't do any policing. And when that was all over, it was like being on holiday. But then, of course, I had to think of something to do. I did a couple of things after that. I was unemployable after I left the army because I was so traditional in my outlook, ecclesiastically, that I was almost unemployable. And so I did a mixture of antiques and I was a professional actor. Quite a successful one for a long while. Called James Middlemarch was my screen name. And yeah, they were great days. But I lived by the seat of my pants. I didn't know where my next bag of chips was coming from. So unpredictable when you're self-employed, as many of you out there will know. I really didn't know how I was going to survive, but I did. I eventually found my way back into ministry. But in the short term, I sacked it, frankly. They weren't really interested in me, and I certainly wasn't interested in them. And sometimes that situation repeats itself even today. But less of that. I might leave that for another video, where I stand ecclesiastically. I don't really like institutions. Oh, awful, awful things. I don't like being controlled. I don't like being bossed around. I don't like people saying, "No, you shouldn't be doing that, you need to do that, and I expect you to be here, and you're to arrive at this, you've got to go to the other, and oh dear, you must fill this form, and you must fill that form, you must attend this safeguarding course, you must do the other." I'm free of all that. For any of you asking out there, why I don't like institutions, and that includes the church, frankly, much. I like the mystical body of Christ, but good gosh, the human body the human body leaves a lot to be desired. And so anyway, but I say that's for another video. Anyway, I'm just sort of banging on now, really, aren't I? I'm enjoying my port and talking to you. Didn't have a great lot to say. Other than that, rest is important. I hope you're taking your rest and finding time out, because it is important. And I like it. I like it a lot. And with that, I'm going to continue smoking my pipe. I'm looking forward to a little bit of supper. Might have another wee drink in the caravan. Might watch a film. How lovely is that? Do you like my fireplace? I'm beautifully framed today. I know it's going to be another glorious sunset. It goes blood red, the sun, as it sets on the horizon and just sinks slowly right in the centre of the mountains and goes down. Beautiful, beautiful sunset. And all the stone on this cottage goes red as well. Well, sort of pink. And I'm going to leave it there. This pipe is coming on. I've smoked nothing else but this today because I want to break it in. I think you're supposed to do it gradually. Yeah, it smokes fine. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I might be able to show you the finished dojo. So do tune in. And if you've got any comments or questions, do ask them. I had one chap railing against me last night in the questions, talking about all the dashed adverts during my videos. I don't get any when I watch myself. Maybe, I don't know what YouTube do. They obviously put them in at various spots and annoy you. I have little control over that. Maybe I do have control over it, but if I do, I don't know that I've got control over it or how to do anything about it. Somebody might be able to tell me. It's probably better having the adverts right at the beginning, isn't it? And then not being disturbed as you're watching. I think it's because I speak longer now, and so they break it all up. But I feel very sorry for the individual who was quite exercised by this. But there we go. I do it for nothing. I do it for the love of Jesus. And you don't really make any money out of YouTube. It wouldn't even pay for my birdseed. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. God bless you all. Take care. See you tomorrow.